Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and today's video is the Age of Sigmar Stat Center, where we look at the event results from the weekend just gone. We percolate it in our mind, we analyze the lists, and we talk about what the meta is like, what the meta could be like, and what units and armies and players are doing well at these events, which is cool. I also like to make this a little bit of a community-focused event, or community-focused video. So if you do or are ever at any events in the future, send me some pictures and videos because I'd love to see them because it really helps us see what those events are like. Thanks to Warhammer Rob for sending me all the information that helps out with this. Different Rob to me, much better Rob, which is cool. And we will be bringing you actual stats in a few weeks' time. We're not going to be doing that right now, though, because in my personal opinion, as I've been saying a lot, I think the game is incredibly new. Lots of people are still making mistakes. It's still very early into the game. And so I would take a lot of the internet hyperbole around just the armies that are good or the game being solved and such like that as being probably the mad prattlings of morons. And instead, just go out there, play, learn the game, find out what's good, find out what you enjoy about the game, or if you even do like the game, and then see how things work. And if you have had any games, please do drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the games that you've played and your experience so far, if you think something's good or not too good or something you didn't enjoy. My feedback is I played an all-pigs army the other day and it was truly rubbish, which is fun. Very excited about maybe playing Tzeentch soon and trying to do infinite blue horrors. Not infinite, that's a bit of hyperbole, but a lot of blue horrors, which will be fun as well. So there's loads going on, which is cool. So go out there and go play those games. And the events that we're going to be covering today are the Northern Ireland GT, obviously in Northern Ireland, the Dojo Open, Salt Lake Open, Border Wars, the Saigon Grand Tournament, and the Herford Invitational. We'll also be hearing from Spoony, who is one of the French players, and he was playing in a French event this weekend. And we'll be hearing about his thoughts on winning that GT with Archeon. So let's go and look at the first event now, which is the Northern Ireland GT. So the first event we're going to look at is our biggest of the weekend, the Northern Ireland GT. Absolutely great group of lads over there if you get the chance, and ladies and MPs, if you get the chance to go and hang out with them. We had two 5-0s at this event, and while the current internet boogeyman, Nighthorn, were able to go 5-0, Sons of Behemoth also went 5-0, although maybe you won't hear as much uproar about that. So Solomon, who has been consistently one of the best performing players in Northern Ireland for several months, if not past couple of years, was able to go 5-0. But sure, it's the army that did well, not just him. But shout out to Solomon. He's an excellent player. He was running the Grand Alliance Death, Nighthorn, and he was using the battle formation Deathstalkers. He did have a manifestation law, Morbid Conjuration. And in his general's regiment, he had a Krulgas Cruciator that was the general with the ruler of the spectral hosts. In his next and a unit of Chain Gas, so a unit of 10. In the next regiment, it was led by Reikenor the Grimhaler, a unit of Dreadblade Harrows, 2 units of 5 Hex Wraiths, and then his last regiment, he was using the Guardian of Souls with the Light Shard of the Harvest Moon, and then 3 lots of 20 Bladegeist Revenants. Obviously, being able to run and charge, counter-charge, and do a bunch of stuff and get an unrenderable wounds in is incredibly effective. And I think ultimately the battle formation that you do have for Nighthorn, where the whole army can run and charge, makes them that much more deadly. But actually, maybe if you start talking about it, maybe the real problem is the fact that they ignore rend. So do we have to start building lists that have a lot of attacks that give our opponents lots of dice rolls? Maybe that's going to be the thing that we need to do in the future. We'll see. Maybe the meta needs to adjust. Maybe it's just early and no one knows how to play. And Solomon Morrow is one of the better players in the country. So he did really well. Our next player, Hayden MC Murray, was running Sons of Behemoth, which is cool. It was the King Broad Stomp. No battle formation, although I think it was Broad Stomp. It is the battle formation. Anyway, he had King Broad, a War Stomper Mega Gargant that had I Can Do That Better and Lucky Shiny Hat, and then 2 Gatebreaker Mega Gargants, right? So 4 bigs, was able to go 5-0, unsurprising there. Shout out to Dave Kane for going 4-1. So we've got quite a few 4-1s, running Soulblight Gravelords, another great player. Running Soulblight Gravelords with the Bacchanal of Blood as his battle formation. And then bringing in the Morbid Manifestation Law, Morbid Conjuration. In his general's regiment, he had Prince Vordry, a unit of 6 Vargheists. The next regiment was run by a Vampire Lord with the Amulet of Screams, which is just so good into casters, and the Lash of the Sire. Then a unit of 10 Black Knights, 2 units of 10 Direwolves, and then the next regiment, Luke of Eye, and then a unit of Fellbats. I'm actually incredibly surprised by the Luca Vi pick. I'd love to hear from Dave why he decided to choose her. I don't think she's overly good. So seeing Luca Vi in this list is actually really interesting. Next up, you had Pete Brizio. Love Pete. He's great. He's running Seraphon in the Sunclaw Star Host battle formation. He was again using that Morbid Conjuration Manifestation Law. I know I keep reading them out because normally you don't. This is one of the things you actually get to choose. I don't need to normally choose what the spell law or the prayer law is because you don't get a choice. And apart from Seraphon, who do get a choice of 2 spell laws, so he also chose the law of Primal Jungles. But I am going to keep reading out which manifestation law they choose because it's an important thing that they choose. Okay. Morbid Conjuration, Law of Primal Jungles. Then the Slan, which feels like an auto-include in Seraphon. A unit of 6 Agrodon Lancers, 6 Agrodon Lancers. A unit of 5 Saurus Guard. And then the Skink Starseer, 2 Hunters of Haunchies, 1 with Dark Pipes, 1 with Starstone Bowlers, which is actually pretty surprising. I think one of the key parts about those 2 units is that they're so good for claiming battle tactics. You could do table quarters, you can do terrain, where you could take the enemy's land, and you can also do the grab the flanks battle tactic, all from 2 incredibly cheap units. Then a unit of 3 Kroxigor as well. And then the Regiment of Renown, the Saviors of Cinderfall, with Callus and Toll as well. That's really fun. That's very, very interesting. They are a really tough unit to get rid of, actually, the Saviors of Cinderfall, so I love that. That's cool. But those Hunters of Haunchi with Starstone Bowlers, probably close to getting an FAQ because of their impact. And again, that's one of those units people like to build, pick up, and paint. And I think you'll see Seraphon armies very soon, always taking 2 units of those. Very interesting to see Dave with the Dark Pipes and the Bowlers. That was fun. Pete, with them. Brendan McKern with his Skaven was running the Warp Cog Convocation battle formation. He had the Law of Ruin as his spell law, Noxious Prayers as a prayer law, and then the Manifestation law with the Manifestations of Doom. So choosing those Skaven's manifestations. The General's Regiment had Verminlord Deceiver with a Warpstone Charm and Scurry Away. His next regiment, and then no units in that regiment either. I think that's going to be something that you'll see as fairly common because then it's much harder to achieve the battle tactic where you're destroying units in your opponent's general's regiment. I think it's not called Slay the Body Honor Guard or something. It's one of the names. I'll remember in a moment. But I think one of the things that's fun is that you might see this as a pick, because if you can't be like 2 drops anyway and control who gets the choice to go first, you maybe will put no units in your general's regiment so that your opponent doesn't get to choose a battle tactic to go against you. Next regiment was an Arch Warlock with Clan Rat Storm Fiends, and then a unit of 10 Clan Rats, a unit of 6 Storm Fiends, and then a unit of Reinforced Giselle, so 6 Giselles. And the next regiment was a Grey Seer, and then 2 units of 20 Clan Rats in the list as well. Okay. Then we have Freddie Leggett, an amazing legend, Freddie Leggett from Team England, running Blades of Khorne. He was running the Bloodbound War Horde as his battle formation, and his manifestation law was the Judgments of Khorne, which is pretty much all Khorne can take. In his general's regiment, he had an Aspiring Deathbringer with Firebrand and the Halo of Blood, a unit of 10 Blood Warriors, another unit of 10 Blood Warriors, a unit of 5 Wrathmongers, a Realmgore Ritualist as the next regiment leader, with another unit of 10 Blood Warriors, a unit of 5 Skull Reapers, a unit of 5 Wrathmongers. Slaughter Priest was leading the next regiment with a unit of 10 Blood Reavers, a unit of Claws of Kyrenak, and a unit of 5 Skull Reapers. Now, this is very much a Freddy list. He runs very MSU, or multiple small units as a build. So that's unsurprising to see him put that out there. And I would love to hear from Freddie how that went in the future. Then we have Glenn with his Blades of Khorne as well. And he was running Murder Host as the battle formation. And then he was again taking those Judgments of Khorne. His general's regiment was led by a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage with Firebrand and Argath, King of Blades, for no ward saves, with a unit of 10 Bloodletters. His next regiment had a Slaughter Priest and then a unit of Blood Reavers. His unit of 10. His next regiment was led by a Bloodmaster, Herald of Khorne, with 10 Bloodletters, a Skull Cannon, a Skull Taker, and then his last regiment was led by a Slaughter Priest and a unit of Skull Reapers. A very diverse kind of top there. We've got Khorne, Skaven, Seraphon, Soulblight, Gravelords, Nighthaunt, and Sons of Behemoth in there, with, unsurprisingly, one of the better players in the country taking out the event. So I think that's a nice, healthy, diverse top end from, Pete's been playing loads, part of the Northern Irish national team. Freddie's part of the English national team and went undefeated at Worlds this year. So a bunch of really solid players doing really well in only the third week of Age of Sigmar. So congratulations to all of them. Our next event is the Dojo Open GT. Absolutely 11 out of 10 name, in my opinion. This had 34 players playing at it and was being held at the Borderlands Comics and Games venue in Georgia. Georgia, obviously located in the southern Midwest of the USA. Absolutely stunning venue, like absolutely huge. And it's right next to a Honey Roast Ham Company shop. So you can go get yourself some Honey Roast Ham, play some Warhammies, which I think is pretty cool. The event was organized by Stuart King. Shout out to Stuart for running the event. We only had one 5-0. And that is, according to lots of people in the chat who are themselves local to the area, arguably one of the best players in Georgia, Tommy Miklos of the Georgia Warband, running Ogre Moor Tribes. He was running Heralds of the Everwinter as his battle formation, and his manifestation law was the Morbid Conjuration. In his general's regiment, he had a Butcher, who was the general, and a unit of 12 Ogre Gluttons. His next regiment was led by a Huskard on Stonehorn with the Fang of Gur, and it also been made the Great Gut Lord, a unit of 2 Frost Sabers, and then 2 units of Thunder Tusk Beast Riders, so 2 units of 1. And then his third regiment was a Slaughtermaster with the Ogre Gluttons, again reinforced. So 2 units of 12 Ogre Gluttons that you really have to deal with, and then 2 Thundertusk Beast Riders, and maybe even also the Frost Sabers, being able to do battle tactics and grab objectives. I quite like that. I think you're always going to see those 2 little units doing those things. So shout out for Tommy for doing so well. Okay, let's go look at the 4-1s. We've got Walter Brock with his Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Mackenzie Ewing, Lumineth Realm Lords, Frederick Schmidt with the Cruel Boys, Mike Rhodes with Blades of Khorne, and Sung Kang with his Gloomspike Gits. Just like to shout out, again, in a very, very diverse 4-1 bracket in there. So that's also something to shout out about. Walter Brock running his, also known as the Bone Daddy, I should shout that out, running his Ossiarch Bone Reapers, was running the Battle Formation Kavalos Deathlance. His manifestation law was the Horrors of the Necropolis, so that's the Ossiarch Bone Reapers unique ones. He went really big on characters for this, with his General's Regiment having Catacross and a unit of 10 Death Riders. Then his next regiment having Arcan, and then 2 units of 5 Death Riders. And the last one was the Mortis and Soul Mason with the Immortus Guard, with the Helm of Tyranny and the Aura of Sterility. Don't forget that Immortus Guard is going to add +1 to the ward saves for all of those big characters. That's actually making them very, very survivable. Lots of wounds in the Death Riders, maybe the smaller units for doing battle tactics. This is a really good result, I think, for a very limited board presence army, thanks to just all of those points being sunk into those big characters. So pretty great result, and he should be really proud of himself. Mackenzie Ewing, one of my favorite people ever, great human being, was running the Lumineth Realm Lords in the Huracan Temple. His manifestation law was the Morbid Conjuration, or as some people in the chat have been calling it, the Morbid Conj. And his regiment had the General's Regiment, the leader being Severith, Lord of the Seventh Wind, and then 2 Hurricane Spirits of the Wind. These are insanely good units, thanks to their Objective Control 5, their incredible speed, their ability to move after shooting, and their ability to grab objectives. In a game where the objectives are more spread out, you need to have more units that can move around on to grab objectives. And if you aren't able to hold them with a big enough unit, then you will be able to put potentially 15 control value on an objective, or have each one of them keep threatening different control points on the board or different objectives, which I think is really solid, especially for the very, very cheap point of the Hurricane Spirit of the Wind at 240 points. So these things are absolute dynamite for grabbing objectives and almost counter-grabbing and making it so your opponent always has to like camp an objective, therefore maybe can't bring all of their resources to come and hit stuff. So strong. The next part of the regiment was Snarry Caligrave with a unit of 10 Wardens, and a unit of 5 Blade Lords. And the next regiment was led by Eleanor and Elathor, the twins, with a unit of reinforced 20 Sentinels in this list. So some good shooting, some great movement, and some solid units for grabbing objectives, and some good magic strength. Great work from Mackenzie there. Then we had Frederick Schmidt. He was running the Lightfinger battle formation for his Cruel Boys army. His first battle regiment was run by Killer Boss on Corpse Ripper Vulture with the Slippery Scumbag special rule, heroic trait. Then 2 units of 7 Cruel Boys Monster Killers and a unit of reinforced Manskewer Bolt Boys. The Swampcaller Shaman and 6 more Bolt Boys. And then the next regiment was led by a Snatcher Boss on Sludgeraker Beast with 20 Gut Rippers and 2 more units of Cruel Boys Monster Killers and the Kronspine Incarnate as a Conjuration Lore. I'm unsurprised to see the Cruel Boys Monster Killers doing well, or in fact any units that are really good into anti-monster, specifically because, and I know that Cruel Boys are also the Monster Killers are also very cheap, but the reason that I think that they're seeing additional play is obviously they're really excellent into the centerpiece units, and everyone has got centerpiece units because they're so effective, and the rules or allegiance abilities for some armies have been, even this list has got 2 different monsters that it could go fight against. So pretty impressive. Great work to Frederick. Next list was a Khorne list being run by Mike Rhodes. He was using the Battle Formation Murder Host, and his manifestation law was Judgments of Khorne. His general's regiment used Scarbrand, a unit of 20 Bloodletters, and the next regiment was led by a Bloodmaster, and then the last regiment had, the next regiment was led by the Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, 3 units of Fleshhounds, and then his last regiment was led by a Slaughter Priest. And then his last regiment had a Slaughter Priest in it as well. Great list. Loads of little units for doing battle tactics, which I think is super important. Absolute massive damage coming out of the Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury and also Scarbrand. Scarbrand, very good and gives a lot of speed to the army thanks to a 3d6 charge, which I think is good. An absolutely solid block of Bloodletters as well. Our next list is Sun Kang running Gloomspite Gits. I think this is going to be a really meta list long term. This is Gloomspite Gits to the Trog Herd, with the manifestation law being the Dank Manifestations, or the Danky Mans, as I call it. The General's Regiment was Scragrot the Loon King, with 6 Rotgut Troggoths, another unit of 6 Rotgut Troggoths. The next regiment had Trug, a Dankhold Trog Boss, a unit of Fellwater Troggoths, and then a unit of Rotgut Troggoths as well. This is, again, a really, really solid list. 18 Rotguts, Trug to give them extra attacks or extra rend, and just himself be good. Everyone's healing in the hero phase. Everyone's healing if they use a fight ability. The Moon's giving everyone +1 to save. Scragrot comes in super clutch in this particular list because he can guarantee having the Moon exactly where you want it. Exactly where you want it at the right point. Therefore giving everyone +1 save, which is absolutely excellent. That's the end of the Dojo Open. Great group of people. If you ever get the chance to go play at that gaming venue. Special shout out to my good friend in 26th, Dadbod Napgod, this Slaves to Darkness army. Right, let's go look at the next event. Our next event takes us to the USA for the Salt Lake Open Age of Sigmar Championships. 29 players battling it out at an event organized by the Utah Wargaming crew. It was being held here at the administration building. Unfortunately, not on a strip mall, and I don't see a diner anywhere nearby. So really hoping they provided some great solid food choices in the administration building. Anyway, our event was won by Ian McAleese with his Ogre Moor Tribes army. Are ogres too good? Question mark. Hyperbolic YouTube thumbnail. Ian was running the Roving Moor battle formation, and he had the Morbid Conjuration spell lore. His general's regiment was a Slaughtermaster with a prime gut server and a flask of congealed Moor juices. 12 gluttons and then 12 gluttons. His next regiment had a butcher, and it had 3 units of Gorger Moor packs. Those are units that can't be reinforced and can be put into deep strike, or as we call it, put into reserve and then can be brought on from the board edges. That's pretty solid in my opinion. He also took the Moor Pit as well, which is actually a really interesting thing that only ogres at the minute can do, where you can choose between 2 different types of terrain, Moor Pot or Moor Pit. Actually, a lot of the ogre community is split on this exact moment, and they are rowing with some people wearing Moor Pit t-shirts, some people wearing Moor Pot t-shirts. I've never seen a more furious divide I've never cared about. However, that is a choice. I like the Gorgon Moor packs in here. It does mean you get something a little bit different to Gluttons, and it's absolutely brilliant to see Gluttons out on the tabletop. Next up, looking at the 4-1s, we've got Fire Slayers with a 4-1, thanks to Mad Lad Puto. Zach Boyd with his Nighthorn going 4-1. Dustin Chesma with his Daughters of Khaine. Matt the Nuge with his Beast of Chaos, and then Connor Davidson with Daughters of Khaine on the 4-1. Let's go look at the lists. So our first one, Mad Lad Puto running Fire Slayers, was running the Warrior Kinbad battle formation. His first regiment had an Auric Runefather on Magmadroth, a Grimwrath Berserker, a reinforced unit of Hearthguard Berserkers with broad axes, a unit of Volkite Berserkers with Fire Steel weapons, and a unit of Vulcan Flame Seekers. The next regiment was run by an Auric Runemaster with a unit of Hearthguard Berserkers with broadaxes, only a unit of 5 this time, and then a unit of Volkite Berserkers with Fire Steel weapons. His next regiment had an Auric Runesmiter with a unit of Vulcan Flame Seekers. His next regiment had an Auric Flamekeeper with Volkite Berserkers with Fire Steel weapons. So a lot of drops in this list, especially the heroes. And I think if you aren't going to be a 2-drop list, then you should just take all of the heroes that you need to build the best list that you can. Because 2-drop is probably going to give you the 2 regiments, maybe give you the opportunity to go first in most cases, because I think that lists are generally between 2 and 3. But 2 is going to give you a much better chance. Whereas as soon as you're at 3, I think it's a dice roll as to whether or not you're getting the choice. So you might as well have more units. Other than this, it's a solid combat army for an edition which is very combat orientated. There are a lot of battle tactics and also a lot of a lot of battle tactics, which are very much about engaging with your opponent's army, charging in and having units survive, having units kill your opponent's units in the general's regiment, stuff like that. There is lots of units that you require to do those tactics, and then having more like MSU combat units here is very good. And I think Fire Saves could be really solid. Zach Boyd was running Nighthaunt in Deathstalkers. He brought the Aetherwrought Machineries as a manifestation law. Lady Alinda in the General's Regiment with a reinforced unit of Bladegeist Revenants. Then Guardian of Souls with another unit of reinforced Bladegeist Revenants for a new regiment. And then a unit of 10 Chain Rasps and a unit of reinforced Craven Throne Guard. In the last regiment, Alrak the Drowner with a unit of Dreadblade Harrows, a unit of Dreadscythe Harridans, all minimum, and a unit of Hex Wraiths as well. So lots of units to go and do lots of stuff, but maybe compared to some of the other Nighthaunt units, doesn't have as many big punchy blocks like that big single reinforced unit of Bladegeist Revenants. Dustin Chesma was running Daughters of Khaine in the Cauldron Guard. This is getting very popular, with the Manifestations of Khaine as the manifestation law. The General's Regiment had the Hag Queen, a unit of 20 Witch Elves with double weapons, double swords. The next regiment had a Slaughter Queen and Cauldron of Blood, very popular at the minute, with the Bathed in Blood ability added. A unit of Sisters of Slaughter with Bladed Bucklers, and 2 more units of Witch Elves with double knives. The next regiment was led by Bloodwrack Medusa with 2 units of Heartrenders, which are absolutely fantastic for doing battle tactics. And then a unit of... the last regiment was run by Crew Athsa, the Crone Seer, which is so good when paired up with a Cauldron of Blood. A unit of Doomfire Warlocks and a unit of Witch Elves. Again, a unit of 20 Witch Elves with double blades. So this is just an incredible amount of attacks that can be, and we talked about this previously on the show, could be like 200 attacks damage 2 in the right situation. That's very, very effective. Those small units of 10s can do a lot. And then the support pieces, Crueth's really cheap for the support that she brings to the army, along with the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron of Blood for everything that brings. So just absolutely solid. And then the Heartrend is so key for doing tactics. Then we have Matt the Nuge running Beast of Chaos. Love this list. He was running the Bestial Manifestations manifestation law. So we haven't seen a lot of Morbid Conjuration from this event. General's Regiment was a Doom Bull and a unit of reinforced Bestigor. I do have a deep dive I did on Beast of Chaos if you want to go watch it. Didn't seem to be very popular at all on YouTube. You can go check it out. But a unit of Bulgor as well, so reinforced Bulgor as well. So they're very solid. Bestigor, very, very good. Loads of wounds, loads of attacks. I think 61 attacks out of the Bestigors. Very strong. Next regiment had Great Brave Shaman with another reinforced unit of Bestigors. Don't forget, you can also drop these Bestigors very cheap. Very close to your opponent. I apologize, that's what I meant. You could drop them very close when you put them in from Deep Strike, almost guaranteeing charges, which is very good for being able to put that many bodies on the board. But he did also add a Regiment of Renown. Fulgoth's Shudderhood, which is 540 points, has got a Harbinger of Decay, a unit of Puskor Blight Lords, and a unit of Putrid Blight Kings in the list as well. So I feel like that gives him some sustainability, which I think is Beast of Chaos' weakness on objectives, and being able to just be very solid, which is nice. So great list from the news there. And then Connor Davidson was running Daughters of Khaine in the Slaughter Troop with the Manifestations of Khaine. The General's Regiment had Marathi Khaine and a reinforced unit of Blood Sisters. So that's the Combat Elves. And then 2 units of 10 Witch Elves with double knives. The next regiment, Slaughter Queen of Cauldron of Blood, a unit of Shadow Stalkers, and then 2 Sisters of Slaughter with Bladed Bucklers. I think an important point to make here is, again, a diverse top end of the meta. Ogres doing well, but Fire Slayers, Nighthaunt, Double Daughters of Khaine, and Beasts of Chaos all featuring, which again, very diverse top end. That's excellent. That means a very healthy game, but it's still a very early game. So, you know, take this all with a pinch of salt. Our next event is taking place in Australia. Border Wars 2024 had 26 players playing at this event. It was held at the Marambina Community Centre, which is great. And then we have, just to go look at the ladder. Sorry, I just made a mess there. It was held at the Martha Muse Centre. It looks lovely. But if we go look, we can see that, there we go. Looking at the ladder, you can see that Mitch Bug won with his Ogre War Tribes. And what is going to be something that people are going to be talking about is ogres look pretty sick. I maybe should get myself some ogres. Now, getting yourself some ogres from Games Workshop, I think Games Workshop are going to update the ogre range over the next 6 months to 2 years, so you might see some change. But you might want to get yourself some ogre sculpts. I'd like to be very clear that a Patreon that I personally support, so this is not a sponsored ad or anything like it, has got a really sick set of miniatures that you can go pick up. This is Claybee's creation, you can see here, and they've got a bunch of great ogres if you ever wanted to go and pick some up. He's also a community member as well, so you'd be keeping it in the family. I like all of the minis that they do. If you check this out, this is a fun-looking Slaughtermaster proxy, which is fun. Here's a cool Butcher proxy, which is cool. I also absolutely love the Mournfang, which aren't very in vogue at the minute. On the tabletop, and I also love the Tyrant. But the one that I love the most are the Man-Eaters, which look absolutely amazing. But obviously you could use these as gluttons, which would look really fun. So if you want to get yourself some ogres, go grab them from here if you're a 3D print stan, I guess. Anyway, Mitch Bug was running ogres, and what he was able to do with his 4-1 was play the Prophets of the Gulping God battle formation. He had the Manifestation Law, the Kronspine Incarnate, and then his General's Regiment was a Slaughtermaster, a reinforced unit of Iron Guts, a reinforced unit of Gluttons. He had a Butcher in the next regiment leading a unit of Gorge of Moorpack, very popular at the minute, a unit of unreinforced Gluttons, and then a Tyrant running 2 Frost Sabers as well. So his Frost Sabers great for doing battle tactics, the Gluttons for holding objectives and fighting, the Moorpack for that deep strike and just being really solid. So just love seeing that. Well done to Mitch. Also in the 4-1, we had Zach Rockman with their Nighthaunt, running the Deathstalkers battle formation and were taking the Morbid Conjuration Manifestation Law. The General's Regiment had Nagash in it with 2 units of Dreadblade Harrows and then a reinforced unit of Hex Wraiths. And the next regiment was led by a Guardian of Souls with a reinforced unit of Bladegeist Revenants. Now, those Hex Wraiths and also Bladegeist Revenants are big smash pieces, which are very, very, very good. The Dreadblade Harrows are absolutely excellent for both holding objectives and also grabbing battle tactics. And Nagash is wildly brilliant, in my opinion, for a ton of reasons. Magic dominance, killing monsters, killing heroes, just doing a ton of stuff, and just really good. And I'm surprised we haven't seen more Nagash playing, but congratulations to Zach for doing so well. Joel was running Lumineth Realm Lords. He was using the Venari Battle Host and, again, the Morbid Conjuration Manifestation Law. Teclis in the General's Regiment with a reinforced unit of Sentinels, a Banner Blade, and then a unreinforced unit of Dawn Riders. The next regiment was being run by a Cenari Cathalar, a reinforced unit of Wardens, and a unit of River Blades. And for the second time, ladies and gentlemen, the Regiment of Renown, the Saviors of Cinderfall, have also made it into the list, which is cool. Again, that we're going to do deep dives on those in the future, but really fun little unit. Anyway, Australia is a great community. If you get a chance to go to any of the events, please do. Shout out. Go find your local Australian event and go play. They're really, really fun. Our next event takes us to Vietnam, which is really exciting, with a Warhammer AOS Saigon Grand Tournament with an incredibly respectable 22 players attending the event at Vietnam, being held right here in Ho Chi Minh City. We have got some pictures thanks to the Sala Club Warhammer Vietnam Club you can see here. So there's our winner, winning a Skaven Tide box and a trophy. Second place got themselves a Be'lakor, which is rad. Third place got a Callus and Toll. And then Best Sports got themselves 500k, which I'm not 100% certain what that is. But yeah, the call to war. So shout out to our friends in Vietnam and the people running it. So if we go and look at the event results, we can see in first place, and I'm not even going to try and enunciate their name. I apologize to first place for running their Stormcast Eternals. I think Tran, I'll just do Tran. attempted to... So I think I'll try and say it like that. Tran got first place with their Stormcast Eternals going 4-1. In Tran's list, he was running a Thunderhead Host battle formation with a Kronspine Incarnate as the manifestation lore. His general's regiment was Lord Commander Bastian Karthlos, a unit of reinforced prosecutors. I love prosecutors, especially for the 3d6 charge to deny turn 1 Caesar Center as a battle tactic. A unit of Vanguard Raptors with long track crossbows. A Lord Arcanum on Taurolon with a Quicksilver Draft and the Envoy of the Heavens. The next regiment was led by a Knight Arcanum, a unit of Vanquishers that's been reinforced, and another reinforced unit of Vanquishers. And then the third regiment was the Knight Relictor with a unit of Gryph-hounds, and the fourth regiment was a Knight Incantor with another unit of Gryph-hounds. Those Gryph-hounds, really solid for obviously achieving those battle tactics. So congratulations to Tran. Solomon, in third place, was running Nighthaunt. We just take a quick look at the list. You can see Solomon was running Deathstalkers as his battle formation and was taking the Manifestation Lore, the Chthonic Sorceries. So wasn't running Morbid Conjuration. His general's regiment had Lady Alinda and a reinforced unit of Bladegeist Revenants. The next regiment was led by a Guardian of Souls, a reinforced unit of Bladegeist Revenants, and you won't believe this, another reinforced unit of Bladegeist Revenants for 60. And the final regiment was a Knight of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed with a unit of Dreadblade Harrows and a unit of Dreadblade Harrows and 5 Hex Rays. I absolutely adore that our winner in Northern Ireland was running a very similar list to our other player in Vietnam. Makes me feel like we're really connected, which I think is actually super wonderful. So well done, Solomon. Actually, they're both called Solomon. That's amazing. That's great. Okay, anyway. Then our other 4-1 is Haibu with their Slaves to Darkness, was running a Godswrath Warband. General's Regiment, Manifestation Lore, sorry, was a Primal Energy. The General's Regiment was Be'lakor the Dark Master and a reinforced unit of Varangard with the Mark of Khorne. The next regiment was a Demon Prince with the Infernal Puppet with a unit of Chaos Spawn, another unit of 3 Varangard, and another unit of 3 Varangard, all with the Mark of Khorne. So just absolutely committing to the idea of all of that output very early, doing an incredible amount of damage. I think you'll see this guy doing some really solid, this list doing some solid play the world over in the future. And, you know, you could say the Philippines invented it. And then Hung Nuge, with Hung Nuge with his Kharadron Overlords also went 4-1. And this is our first 4-1 for Kharadron Overlords, I think, this edition. Running the Aether Runners battle formation. His general's regiment was the Etheric Navigator, the Arcanaut Ironclad, and then a unit of reinforced Grundstrock Thunderers in the general's regiment. The next and the reinforced unit of Sky Wardens. His next regiment had an Engine Master and then a reinforced unit of Sky Wardens and a frigate as well. With the inability to play in the manifestation game and manifestations being so good right now, I wouldn't be surprised if these don't do super well, but seeing them do 4-1 is great. That is all of the players in the 5-0 and the 4-1 bracket out of Saigon. I want to say a special thank you to those players for playing, and, you know, well done to the whole community. Hope you had a great time. So our last event is 14 players being happening in England at the Hereford Invitational. The event was organized by the absolutely wonderful Luke Churchus, great human being, really solid, and had some, you know, pretty solid players at this event, which is cool. Luke himself played. There's some really good Worlds players in here, like Dan Arnold, David Towsey, one of my good friends, Adam Mumford's playing as well. So a really solid crew of people. But the event was won by Natty. Now, if you don't remember who Natty is and you watched the Stats Center last week with the young man negashing off a Nagash on the double hand of dust roll, that is the same fella. So shout out to Natty from Team Lit. There's actually a picture of him winning the event with a good man Luke there. So congrats to him. So his list, he was running OCR Bone Reapers in the Kavalos Lance. He was running the Horrors of the Necropolis Manifestation Lore. His general's regiment was the Nagash, Supreme Lord of the Undead. A unit of Immortus Guard giving him a 4-up ward. 2 units of Death Riders, and that unit of Morgus Harbingers. And I know he loves just to full send the Harbingers early. Them all die eventually, and Nagash bring the 540-point unit back from the dead. So very solid. And then Nagash is as good as I talked about earlier. Yeah, and it's a 1-drop. It's a 1-drop full send. So when you've got 540 points of 3d6 charge Morgas early being yeeted at you, a unit that cannot well, once you kill it, will come back at full strength. You're basically dealing with a 2.5k army. That's pretty nutty. So well done to Natty for doing some solid work. This is his second GT already in this edition. And in second place, our other 4-1 is the absolutely indestructible Greg Shelton with Soulblight Gravelords there. And he was running in the Soulblight Gravelords list, the Death March sub-faction. His manifestation law was the Kronspine Incarnate. He had Manfred von Karstein, a unit of 10 Black Knights and another unit of 10 Black Knights, with a unit of Fellbats and a reinforced unit of Graveguard. So a lot of very big threats there. Then his next regiment was a Necromancer with another unit of Black Knights, another unit of Fellbats. Fellbats are sensational in a Soulblight Gravelord's army, and I think Soulblight Gravelord's armies will end up being one of the better armies in the game. Because the ability, when they die, you can bring back just 2, and they're just great for just, again, doing battle tactics or grabbing objectives. They're tiny little units that are very mobile, that you don't really care about, that just keep going and grabbing objectives and doing stuff. And that's kind of what you need when your opponent is really worrying about dealing with 30 Black Knights and 20 Graveguard, which is good. So, but again, diverse. OBR in there and Soulblight Gravelords as well. So that brings me to the end of the stat show. Now, I do have one more thing to bring to you. I do have an interview that I'm going to include right now from Spoonie. He played at a singles event in France this weekend, and we don't have the event results because they use slightly different tourney software, so we don't have that information available. So I'm going to listen to him now because he was running Archeon at an event, and his feedback was that Archeon is so good, and that people were still learning the game, and they didn't have time to learn the game and also learn how Archeon played. And that really reinforces the idea that people are really struggling to learn, not struggling, but people are still learning the game. So listen to him now.
Hey everyone, I've been to the custom Wargamer event in Belgium last weekend, and I managed to take the first place. About my list, I've wanted to play Archeon for a few months now, and this was a good moment to do it. The list is fairly simple. You have Archeon and 10 Chosen, because sometimes you need to hit something with a big armor. You have the Sorcerer, because of the 5+ ward on the Chosen, and then you need scoring. I tested multiple variations on the list with Knights or Warriors, but they were too expensive and I had too few units. So I finally decided on 2 units of Fell Riders, 1 of Furies, and 1 of Raptorex to have 4 fast units. Among those, the Fell Riders are quite tanky and they can kill stuff. Furies are a pain to deal with if the opponent does not have any shooting, and Raptorex are cheap enough to fill the list. Primal Energy is a no-brainer here when you bring a big unkillable piece like Archeon. About the event is pretty early after the launch, so everyone was still learning how to play the game. Lists were not perfect, but you still had some of the dreaded units like Dawn Riders or Be'lakor, and of course Morbid Conjuration. My list had some serious advantages for this type of event. Firstly, people are still learning how to play the game, and my list forces the opponent to try to figure out how to deal with Archeon on top of that. Not easy. And Archeon is a beast against manifestations, and I knew people would use those a lot. You can even charge an enemy manifestation, hit it in your combat phase, then pile in the direction you want, giving you lots of opportunities. How it went? The event went great. I faced 2 Lumineth tech lists plus Dawn Riders list. I had to play with caution because 20 Dawn Riders are among the few things that can kill Archeon. But the lists were not optimal, and I managed to not have more than 10 Dawn Riders charge, which is not enough. I also faced a Tragoth EV list. My opponent made a mistake which allowed me to kill his terrain during his first turn, which makes the game far easier. Hardest matchup was Be'lakor with 10 Knights and 10 Chosen. Be'lakor managed to prevent Archeon to do anything during 2 turns, which is absolutely huge. Game was close and ended on a 41-41, but I had 1 more tactic, so I had a minor victory there. And my last game was against Catacross and Arcan OBR on Device. Device is really good for my list, and he did sacrifice some units early, so I won that one. I finished first with 228 points, scored over 5 games. All in all, loved playing the big guy, loved eating manifestations.
Thanks very much for watching the Age of Sigmar Stat Center. It's been really fun hanging out and talking about these lists. Again, don't forget that the game is still new. The lists I've seen have been diverse. There's been lots of really interesting stuff. Ogres, it seems, maybe are better than Nighthaunt. Who knew? Maybe Nighthaunt are only okay. Maybe other armies like we're going to see, I think, more Daughters of Khaine, more Soulblight Gravelords coming into the mix. I think Khorne are in a really good position as well. I think there's loads of really good armies. You just got to get out there and play with them to find out how they work. But we're going to keep covering all of those lists and all of those events in the Stat Center for the rest of time. So let me know what you like, what you want to see from the Stat Center in the future. Thanks for watching my video, and thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. If you join up to my Patreon, we've got really cool faction stats, and you just be helping me create more videos like this, which I would appreciate. Thanks for watching. See you soon.